of the headstock, the quill side, you have a mechanism which feeds the quill out and then lets it come back in. Actually, it retracts it. The quill is nicely designed so that the drive shaft, which goes down the center, is splined on this end. It fits into this nylon coupling. Couples that with the drivetrain so that it keeps it turning no matter what position the quill is in. On the bottom of the quill, there is a rack, and on this shaft, which goes transverse through the headstock, there is a pinion gear. That's what feeds the quill out and what the quill rides on when it retracts. In this housing, which is right here, there is a great big huge clock spring which as you feed the quill out, you get more and more tension, and then the tension retracts the quill automatically. Now, if you're restoring an older Mark V, and you get to this side of the headstock, the first thing you want to do is remove the quill. That's simple enough done, but you have to locate an Allen screw in the top of the headstock right here. Now that may be a little harder than you think, because we fill those Allen screws with lead or acampunky before they leave the factory, and you need to locate that and dig the acampunky back out. Once you've got it clear, take your 5/32" Allen wrench and back it part of the way out. Now you'll be able to extend the quill all the way. At that point, say the pinion gear has let go of the quill, and I can work that out very easily. Now, if all I want to do is replace the quill, then I want to keep the quill tension. So I'll take the depth stop, and I'm going to dial it back to where it hits the 4 1/4 mark. Okay, not the 0 mark. That's the wrong way to go. Go to the 4 1/4 mark and tighten the depth stop lock. Okay, and it'll keep the tension there until you're ready to put the quill back in. Now, the quill, of course, the drive's shaft runs on bearings, and these bearings may need replaced. Also, it could be that you want to upgrade your quill. In the very older Mark V's, we made quills with just one single bearing down here at the nose. And because this was allowed some slop at this end, there's as much as 5/1000ths play on this end. Later on, we went to a 2-bearing quill, which you can see here. And if you feel down with your 5/32" Allen wrench, you'll hit that bearing before you bottom out. Of course, if you don't have that bearing, the drive shaft will go almost, or the shaft of the Allen wrench will go almost all the way into the quill. So if you find that you need a little bit more accuracy when you're drilling, and you want to upgrade to the 2-bearing quill, this is all you have to do to get your old 1-bearing quill out. At this point, you just put the new quill in and let it retract back into the headstock. However, if you're refurbishing this thing, there may be a little bit more that you want to do here. We're going to go ahead and take the QuillFeed mechanism out and inspect it. I'm going to loosen the depth stop now. I'll try to. There we go. And then slowly let the tension off. Okay, until the spring is no longer wound up. At this point, I'm going to start pulling things off. Let's take off the QuillFeed lock, and I'm going to line them up over here in the order in which I pull them off, so I won't get too confused. This is a wave washer. I've seen a lot of older Shopsmiths sold without this. This is extremely important. If yours does not come with the weighing washer, you want to get one from us. Okay, let's go to the other side now. We'll take off the lever. The depth stop lock. At the top of the depth stop, there is a serrated washer with a tongue. And there, of course, there's the depth stop itself. Another serrated washer with a tongue. And a machine washer. Line those all up. Now, here's the QuillFeed mechanism for all of you to see. This housing holds the spring. We want to free this housing from the headstock casting, and there is another Allen screw right up here. Once again, this is one of those screws that we try to hide from you by camouflaging it with lead or acumpunky. So you may have to dig that out. I've already done my digging. I've had this thing apart so many times. All right, once this is loose, the mechanism will pull out from the back side of the machine. Now, you want to be particularly careful as you're doing this, because there are a couple parts that can drop down into the machine, and if that happens, then you're going to have to drop off the motor pan to get them. In particular, there's a domed washer on here. We're going to pull this out, and you would have to reach through the opening in the headstock and get the domed washer before it drops down. Now, put this and the domed washer here where it goes. Finally, let's go back to the other side. There is a spacer with a groove down the center that fits in this side of the casting. All right, those are all the parts. This is the mechanism that I pulled out. It looks to be pretty good. The spring seems to be have a reasonable amount of tension on it, although it's a little loose, as you would expect. This machine is probably a good 25 years old. However, it's missing the Woodruff key right here. There is, remember I told you that this spacer has a groove in it. It slides over so that the spacer lines up with that Woodruff key. This doesn't turn, and this is what helps keep the quill in place when you turn the quill lock. Without that Woodruff key, it can easily slip. So you'll find that there are quite a few out there like this. The new shafts, as they come with a Woodruff key that has been stamped in place. It's almost impossible to get out, and you think, well, how do I get that washer over that Woodruff key? It fits just like that. There's enough space in that washer that it fits fairly easily over the key. If you're wondering what's inside the housing, I'll show you. In this case, there's nothing. I brought this and took this apart to show you what may be wrong, because in addition to this being corroded, you could have a problem with the spring, and this is the spring that does the retraction. That spring hooks onto a little pinion right here on the shaft with the pinion gear. It's a little stud actually, and it goes up through the spring and then hooks in place just like that. Once you've got it, I had it on the spring there for a minute. There we go. Once you've got it on the spring, you can wind the spring up and fit the housing over it. I have to get the spring a lot tighter, and believe me, this is a much harder operation than I'm making it look. if you find that you have a broken spring in your in the QuillFeed mechanism, you probably want to invest in a new QuillFeed mechanism that's all the way together, rather than just try to replace the spring. But it can be done if you have the vocabulary for it. Let's say that you've either finally gotten this back together, or you've bought a new one from us. This will come to you like this, with the woodruff key in place, all ready to install. What you want to do, let me turn this around, is get the domed washer. All right. Now, the domed washer goes behind these ears in the casting. There are two ears right here that create a socket in which the quill slides in and out. This domed washer fits against the ear in the front being the side of the headstock with the speed changer. It fits with the dome facing in. So insert quill feed like that, with holding the domed washer in place with your fingers. Now, let's go around to the other side of the headstock. We've got the spacer, and you would ordinarily, now of course you realize that there is no woodruff key on this. That was a real surprise when I took this out. But I would feel for the woodruff key, find it, and then slide this in like that. While I'm at it, might as well put on the spring washer and the quill lock. Not going to tighten it up, just going to put it there. Now, over on this side, there is a little notch right here and a tab. This notch is what you use when you're lining up the depth stop. The tab is what the depth stop stops against. Okay, make sure that that's pointing straight up in line with this Allen screw. Then tighten the Allen screw. You don't have to over tighten this. You don't want to deform the spring housing over much. By the way, that Allen screw will bite into this, and you may just want to find where it was situated the first time if you're reusing this QuillFeed mechanism a second time. But anyway, the next thing is the spring washer, or not the spring washer, the machine washer, which is flat. Now we put on one of the, yes. We'll wait for the clock to stop chiming. There you go. We'll put on one of the serrated washers. This has a tongue on it, and there is a groove for you to find to fit the tongue in. The serrations on this particular washer go towards the outside. They're going to ride against this disc on the depth stop, on the inside of the depth stop. And the next serrated washer, of course, goes with the serrations facing towards the inside. There we go. So those two washers, when they're squeezed together, capture the depth stop and lock it in place. There it is. Okay, now, not too much for us left to do. Let's put the lever on, and we're going to tension this spring here. Okay, about 3 to 3.5 turns should do it. There's one. There's two. Whoop. Fortunately, that wasn't the spring. That was the lever not being tight enough. There's 1, 2, 3, right in there, right in there. This is as far as I'd want to go. I'm feeling some resistance here, so I'm going to back off just a little bit. Bring the stop up to the 4 1/4 mark again, and tighten that up. And there we go. Now, before you put the quill in, always a good idea to get some wax on this to help it slide better. Try not to get the wax in the rack. If you do, no matter. You just wipe it off or brush it out with a toothbrush or a metal brush. Also, if this is the first time you've had the quill out of your machine, inspect the area inside here that the quill slides in. This is aluminum, but it can get corroded. If it is corroded, take some Scotch-Brite, roll it up into a nice tight bundle, and get it in there, and really polish the inside here. The smoother you get that, the better that this is going to slide in and out of the headstock. All right. In fact, you could also apply a little wax in there. Wouldn't do a bit of harm. Okay. Remember, though, whenever you apply wax as a lubricant, always buff it out. Otherwise, the excess wax will build up and forms a gummy substance that has exactly the opposite effect of what you want. It'll cause things to stick rather than slide. Okay, let us put the quill back in place. Now, I'm going to loosen this and let the quill retract. I've got to find the teeth. There they are. Now see, at that point it's hitting some resistance. The splines right here are not lined up with the grooves in the nylon coupler. I need to turn this just ever so slightly, and now it will retract right back in, right there. See that? Okay. All right. One more thing to do, and that is to tighten up this Allen screw on the top here. This Allen screw rides in a groove that's machined into the quill and guides it. And people ask, well, how tight do you make that? Well, you want it tight enough that it's not going to allow too much slop from side to side, but not so tight that it actually binds on the quill. What I normally do is retract the quill slightly, tighten up the Allen screw so that this is so tight it won't move, and then let it loose ever so gently until the quill moves. There, right there. That's the Allen screw is now adjusted perfectly, and so is the rest of the QuillFeed mechanism.